Hello, my name's Harriton Wadko. Welcome to this show, Talk to Harry. The topic today is about the environment vis-a-vis mining. We have Vin Lava, who's an organic farmer and a definite advocate for the environment. And you have Butch Valdez, who's with the LaRouche Society and Save the Nation movement, who promotes for the good of mankind as his basic point of view. So let's carry on from there so as not to waste time. Where do we meet so that the arguments is not apples and oranges, because we can easily go way out of the topic? Is there such a thing as responsible mining? One. Two, is there such a thing as sustainability? Butch says there is when it comes to trees. You say there's a loss of
Not
life.
just trees, all the other natural resources.
Mining. Is
Everything,
there such a
yeah.
thing, Vin, on mining? Is it renewable? You told me before the show there's no such thing as when you extract minerals, it's gone.
Well, it takes millions and millions of years.
If even.
You know, let's talk about
Yung
crude
kinain
oil.
yung bundok na kinain ng mga Zamora brothers. Yung sinabi ni Gina, yung bundok na yan, your brother took that whole mountain. He stole the mountain.
Right.
How many years will that be replaced? Can it be? Wala na yun, di ba?
Hindi, tambakan mo uli.
Tambakan mo ulit.
Pero sa kakukuha ng panambak.
Ayun, okay. So, para sa'yo, no such thing as responsible mining.
Let me correct this. There are, well, oil was being mentioned, and probably some of
But
this,
isn't that finite oil?
No, that's why. Oil is used for energy, right? I mentioned wood before, and coal,
Yes.
and then oil, and then nuclear. Man, with his creativity, is moving forward. No?
To harness this
Looking
natural resource.
and discovering new sources of energy. This is where it's almost limitless. Who can maybe 300 years ago, 200 years ago, did they ever imagine that man would land on the moon? No? Did they ever imagine that something?
Well, just 100 years ago, it was whale oil.
No, that's
that
why.
lit the streets.
That's why. That was, so, new and newer sources of energy are being discovered. When? Because of the creativity of man. And every time we discover a new source, not just energy, for
Innovation.
other things, even the use of certain metals, new and newer metals are being discovered, not just discovered because of the combination of what we have comes up with a new element. The table of elements 100 years ago is completely different
Yes,
now
today.
from the table of elements. And why? Because there are new elements that have come in. And actually, because of man's intervention, newer elements. And,
Cell phones, for example.
and of use to man. Okay, this is what is happening, and in that respect, all natural resources are can be regenerated into something newer, no, and useful to man.
Do you agree with that, Vin? Where he's directing it, where he's bringing it.
Well, you know, he mentioned energy. Huh? My farm is powered by the sun. Okay. Then there's wind energy.
Don't you need minerals to generate energy from the sun and solar?
Of course, I need copper. I need.
Yeah. So that's extractive.
No, but this is something that will last me for 25 years.
Nevertheless, extractive.
It's extractive, but it can also be recycled.
No, well,
Metals can be recycled.
yes.
You know, as
Certain
as our-
metals.
as
Copper
our
maybe, but
plastics, gold.
plastics, yes, gold.
So it's not only the thought of just extracting. Tapos there has to be it has to be recycled. There's a finite amount there. What happens if it's all gone?
Well, how do you answer that question? You disagree that
There's
it's a
something.
finite.
Well, I'm not so sure of what happens when it's all gone. You see, like I was saying, something comes up. Man's creativity intervenes, no? When a resource is starting to lose and
To deplete, wala
to
na.
deplete, meron pumapasok, meron pala yung pumapasok.
For example, oil now, shale.
Yeah, I cannot tell you exactly how it will evolve, no, but it always does, and you have to look at these things a little philosophically than to make use of as if though whatever we have is it, no. You see, whatever we have now, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, those people didn't have.
They didn't know about it.
They didn't know about it, right? So they didn't even know how to use the minerals that we can now use using our own science. No? So I can't go into that. But there was this guy. His name is Vladimir Vernadsky. He's a Russian scientist and philosopher. He said, the world is made up of three elements. One is the abiotic, which is the non-living things on Earth. The other is the biotic. This is the organic and those that are living. Now he says there is an interaction between the biotic, the living organisms, and the non-living organisms, like the living organisms eat this, no? And there is this interaction. And he called that the biosphere. No? And we can loosely call it nature, how nature works. No? Now, there is another element, he says. That other element he calls the noosphere. The noosphere is knowledge of man, or man's capability, creativity. It intervenes into that nature, into the biosphere, and creates a condition that will be able to sustain an ever-increasing number of human lives.
So you're saying,
see?
basically Mother Earth, the human part of Mother Earth, is part and parcel of what we call the living thing, meaning Earth and man put together in the same place to work for each other.
Well, the biosphere is the interaction of living
of both.
and the non-living.
Yes.
But man is different. It's called the noosphere, it's the creativity. He's different from these two. He has creativity. Look, if
This is the non-tangible, but actually create the interrelationship of the pro and anti.
this guy Vladimir Vernadsky said
Well,
that
well-written
man's creativity
positions.
had increased it, right?
Yes.
It's the same Earth. It didn't change in size from his time.
But the
that was
innovation of
only
man.
less than 100 years ago. But the intervention of man allowed it to be able to sustain at least now 7 million human lives. You see, from where?
Yeah, from 500 million.
And even from where? All the way, you go
Yeah,
all the way back to
many
the first
centuries
man.
back.
Meaning to say, why are human beings 7 billion and there are no 7 billion monkeys? God forbid. No?
Or 7 billion Earths, for
No,
that matter.
No, there's only one Earth, right? Why are there 7 billion human beings and only probably 100 million monkeys?
Because we have encroached on their habitat.
Okay.
There was a
Now,
time when there were more monkeys than people. They predated our species.
I wonder if that's a good thing. It's Planet of Humans, not the apes. No,
no, I'm sorry, but I'm a little humored by the reaction. That means this was a planet occupied by the apes, and we intervened and we encroached in them when we shouldn't have, right? That's the way I will interpret it.
We're
We are
the disruption.
we're the villains.
we're
no?
the villains.
we're the top level predators.
Thank God. If we
I
weren't.
really say thank God, no? Because I wouldn't want our. This is what I mean by. I'm not sure if Vin will be part. I don't think he is anyway. No, you see, there is a certain kind of ideology no, that would rather that man's population be brought down no, from 7 billion to much less than 1 billion in one generation. No? And there are certain methods of doing this according to certain the people. No?
But-
You have Malthus. You start off with Malthus, and you start off another one would be Bertrand Russell. No, even this guy Prince Philip was the founder of WWF. Has advocated this, openly advocated. They are depopulationists. They are the ones that say blame man for our problems today. No? I am on the reverse. No? Everything that you should credit man for our survival to where we are now. And the other thing that we must remember is man is not limited to Earth. No? Man is, as of now, there is nothing that limits our species. Because of our creativity, we are now thinking of colonizing not the moon and Mars, right? We are now trying to explore the other planets in our solar system. No? And we are now discovering that there are many, many more solar systems beyond our own. No?
Because of innovation of man.
Yeah, and if indeed man takes over Mars, no, we cannot be called Martians, nor we can be called Earthlings. No, but the solar system is ours for us to discover, if we know how to use our creativity. No monkey will be able to do this. No? And this is what's there for us to discover, and for the benefit of man, not just man today, but man in the future.
Vin?
Okay, so we were talking about population. According to the Global Footprint Network, if people were to live like the people in the USA, we need 4.5 planets. If all people in the Earth were to live like the Filipinos, we'd need 2 planets. Okay? Our population is expanding beyond the carrying capacity.
So the Middle East have it right. Depopulation by shooting each other.
No,
No.
if you listen to Bertrand Russell, no, who by the way are probably part of this global footprint, no? He says wars are not enough to cut down population. No? There is wisdom in thinking up of new types of weapons, something that has to do with pharmaceuticals, which means chemical warfare, no? And whatever else that are happening. No, by that time, even the use of the atomic bomb, he advocated. No? And he doesn't, well, he has long been dead, but he does not know the kind of destructive power man has been able to create to destroy man. No? We can, with the destructive power of the nuclear weapons that they have put together, you know, we can kill mankind 200 times over now.
Your argument there.
You know, there's a World Atomic Scientists Group, and they have this clock, doomsday clock they call it. They moved it forward from 3 minutes to midnight to 2.5 minutes to midnight because of all these conflicts in the world and the availability of nuclear arms. You have Russia, the US, and NATO.
Yes.
In Europe, you have China and the US, and here in East Asia, in North Korea, and in the West Philippine Sea. You
Yes.
know, it's very plausible.
And we've been warning about this because certain interests have been moving towards world conflict. On the other hand, however, if we go back to, this is not like this is automatic. If man created the conditions of war, man can stop it, right? And it's not God that's creating these conditions
It's
of war.
man.
It's man. So we can stop it. How did we stop it? Populations have started to talk. and protest. How did that protest manifest itself? The present phenomenon. You've got the Duterte as a president and says we're not going to be a launching pad, no, for any country against China. That's one. You have President Trump, another phenomenon. He says, I'm going to talk to China and I'm going to talk to Russia. And we're going to talk economics,
Not war.
not war. So, and he all kinds of other things he's been doing that he actually had favored Brexit.
He has.
And came up with it. Of course, there are other people that don't like what he's saying and want to insist on this war. This is one thing about human beings. They fight and they have interests and they have their
Beliefs.
ideologies and whatever. But man is now coming up to protest this. Duterte is a protest vote of the people.
He is.
Trump is a protest vote of
He
the
is.
people, right?
The Brexit
Right.
is.
This whole move is to move the world away from war. If China, Russia, and the U.S. get together for a global infrastructure
Walang gera.
project, there will be no world war.
Pero
And
walang
that
kikita
clock-
sa armas.
That
Kikita sa-
well, mabuti nga, no? Pero that war that Vin is talking about will have to reverse itself into the. In other words, it will be like a time machine moving it
Backwards
further
again.
back. I'm not saying that there won't be, because there are still crazy people, no?
Yes.
And there are still evil interests, but there might be. Ours is to move forward. What I would like is, just 2 days ago, President Trump
You're talking Trump care?
Trump in the United
Yes.
States, he just gave his latest speech, just a 5-minute speech about NASA. No, NASA is the. You see, Obama cut down the budget by
Yes.
half of NASA. So stop space exploration and just use the money for whatever he wanted to use here. But
No, that's been the Democrats' position
Yeah.
ever since, even going back to Clinton.
but Trump said no.
Yes.
I'm putting it back. No, it is for the good of man that we will take
Identify.
the lead together with other countries, in cooperation with other countries, to explore the rest of
The solar
our solar system. Because this is going to be good for man. You know, when, when John F. Kennedy declared that 10 years from now we will land a man on the moon, what did that do? It got industries together and to produce the necessary equipment, the necessary materials, the necessary knowledge, to be able to put together this. And that meeting of scientists and new ideas to be able to put a man on the moon, generated so much good for mankind. It created the commercialization of tawag dito, itong
Satellites.
itong cooking microwaves.
Microwave.
No? It created new kinds of thinking, ng mga PERT CPM. Yung PERT CPM na pinag-aaral, that was a new kind of management tool that was developed during that time for that. And of course, what we call robotics, automation, no? And push button things and so on and so forth, that was created during that time. Why? Only because man wanted to go
To the moon.
to the moon.
No.
Right?
We're down to 5 last minutes, and I need to put something together on the environment vis-a-vis mining. We've cited its history, we've cited its purpose, we've come down to the one basic assumption, the innovation of man. We've all agreed with that. We agree there's finite and well, I'm not sure we've agreed to anything when it comes to sustainability. Maybe some products, maybe not all. Let's look at the Philippine situation, because this is what we are facing with, and our viewers as well. Tama ba tigil natin yung minahan for now?
If you
Ikaw,
ask
Vin.
me, wag natin itigil. But they must pay for the external costs of their operations. Kasi itong mga external costs, hindi kwentado to eh. You know, like, the value of global, I'm quoting from the changes in the global value of ecosystem services by Robert Costanza et al., no? Where they say, the value of global ecosystem services was estimated to be 4.5 times the value of gross world product in the year 2000. Now, for a current global GDP of
GDP.
75 trillion per year, this would be about 347 trillion per year, or almost 3 times. Then they also come up with, say, for example, if you are going to destroy a hectare of forest, has a value of, in 2007 dollars, a hectare of tropical forests has a value of $5,382. If a mining company is going to cut that down, that should be taken into consideration.
Currently, we are taking 6% out of the 100% that is extracted from our mines.
Since we're talking about what do we do, I was just thinking that this might be precisely the most opportune time to come up with a coherent policy. Our mining has been allowed to be disruptive and destructive over the years. We used to have a limitation of 60-40, wherein 40% was foreign. And this was decided on by the Supreme Court that it should be upheld 60-40. Now, during Gloria's time, I think it was Chief Justice Panganiban who reversed the Supreme Court ruling of 60-40 and decided that it should be 100%, okay, allowing foreigners to
mine.
I think this should be reviewed. No?
That's
Number
consistent
one.
with the Mining Act of 1995.
Right.
They allow.
That's the one.
That's right. So what this has to be reviewed. If at all, maybe the 60-40 should be more limited to 90-10 or something like that, in favor of the Filipinos. The other thing is, mining is needed, but if you mine it and sell our resources as for raw material of other countries, they produce the steel, they produce the whatever.
And sell it back to us for a
sell
premium.
it back to us at the price. I would rather, since it is the stated policy of President Duterte that he wants an agro-industrial development focus on the country, I would rather that I tell all of the mining companies, all, no, save none, that nobody sells raw materials. There has to be a certain level of processing already. Now, at the same time, we are preparing an industrialization or an agro-industrialization program. Now, if this level of mining is processed, then there will be an increase in input, in income for the country. At the same time, a generation of labor. Because as it is, the labor you're generating are those that are just
low-end labor. Yeah,
but if there is processing, there is what you're selling has value added already, so mas mataas ang presyo. That one can be monitored and managed in such a way to accommodate in the future what our industry is going to be. There should come a time that the Philippine industries, like a steel industry that we can put up, or whatever else, must have priority over our own raw materials.
Okay.
That must be the whole process
We're
and program.
already on the extension of the show. A quick word, Vin, to end, if you want to add to that.
Well, that's well and good. But we need our ecosystems. Without these ecosystems, saan tayo?
So you mustn't forget. Okay, we're gonna have to end the show. I've already forced the extension. Sorry to the technical operating control in the back. They're already telling me to keep cutting my head off. I'd like to point out on May 2 or 3, there's going to be a showdown with the DNR, Gina Lopez, who's become disruptive for the mining. And we have seen on television what we call the teleserie of those for and against. I think the bigger issue, but then again, I'd like to disclaim this is a personal point of view. It's not Gina Lopez. And it's not necessarily the law, which is already being, it's right in the middle of it all. But actually, what really needs to be done is a study of the whole system. Legislation has allowed that industrialization do not grow in this country since the 60s. They'd rather import. Now we're coming to that point. The problem is not Gina Lopez, and it's not necessarily mining versus the environment, but the law itself that was put together. So maybe it is not the CA, the Commission on Appointments, that is really in the middle of all of this. It is actually the law that is erroneous, which has to be checked, as we've discussed. And if it's one thing we all agreed here in the studio, that has to be restudied, re-legislated, amended if necessary, and come up with a better law that is pro-Filipino, pro-environment, and pro-mineral extraction done with the least disruptive processes. We hope you've enjoyed our program. Thank you very much. And I hope we didn't fly over too high over your head, because the tendency of intellectuals when they get together and very strong advocates is because of information that is already assumed to be known, especially here in the three of us. It is assumed a lot of information is already accepted. When you are sitting there, and what we try to do is generate critical thought from you. So you may understand and take a position. Are you pro-mining? Are you pro the environment? Is there such a thing as one position over the other? Vis-a-vis and or? Actually, it's for both. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed our program. Thanks,
you.
Butch.
You are what you watch.